So the recent announcement from the Honourable Minister of Finance, Dr. Nigel Clark, that cabinet ministers will take home an annual salary of $20.2 million was met with outrage from the public. And joining us this morning via Zoom is development economist, Dr. Christopher Stokes. Hey, Chris, how are you? Welcome to Smile.
I'm doing very well, Bertus. And top of the morning to yourself and Simone.
Yeah, man, great to have you with us. What was your first reaction when you heard and read what the minister said?
A little surprised. I think it's important to say, though, that there's no scenario under which an announcement of salary increases for politicians, not for civil servants, and I want to make that distinction, is going to be met with applause. Right? That has never happened. I do not believe we're going to see that happen. But if for no other reason, I was surprised about the timing in relation to the unsettled the unsettled nature of agreements that are just recently concluded, and the dissatisfaction in some important ranks, including the police and the teachers. So that timing, even though the minister would say it's a mathematical connection that because of this, therefore that, and that is going to happen, the timing to me seemed a little off. Mm.
So based on his explanation, Dr. Stokes, you're still not keen on what has taken place?
No, look, so we must be careful not to sort of throw everything in the pot and mix it up. We're not talking about soup here. Let's talk about salad. Mm-hmm. There is the issue of civil servants' pay. And I'm going to interject a fair amount of personal opinion here. That needs to be increased. We need to recruit and retain the very best young Jamaican minds to work in the civil service. That's how the government actually works. I am taking that. Now, there's a residual issue of the difference between civil service leadership and the rest of of persons who work in that area. That needs to be resolved. But I have no pushback for an increase in the salaries of civil servants. Increase in the salaries for politicians, though, elected politicians, is a different thing. And I think in that regard, as a country, we need to make a first decision. What is that decision? Do we see politics as something that you volunteer, like your guests from Girl Guides? You know, it's a volunteer organization. Is it Girl Guides or Brown? No, Girl Guides.
Yes. Yeah. It was.
Is politics a volunteer thing? And by the way, Jamaica is built on volunteerism, so we shouldn't, turn up our noses at that. Or are we going to pay the persons well? And if we do, then we have a duty to request far more of them in terms of job performance, aligning their remuneration on what they're asked to do. And that part isn't happening. But I think the first thing, the temperature that we need to check in the country, should elected officials be closer to volunteers, sacrifice for the country, or are we going to, I don't want to use the word professionalize it. Are we going to pay them on the expectation that they're going to bring body, mind, and soul fully into delivering results as representatives of the people? And it's an important decision that we have to make.
It's an important discussion, and Neville and I were actually having it this morning. So Dr. Stokes, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on that issue? Because previously the Prime Minister was making 8 point something, close to 9. People are saying he's running a country, he's in charge, he has the levers. It's a big job. It comes with a lot of responsibility, a lot of sacrifice. Yes. What are your thoughts on what his wage and that of the members of cabinet were being paid? Right. And do you think that they ought to have received an increase at all? Let's not even talk about where the increase went.
All right. I think it's so. And again, this is just my opinion. I incline to the direction of Singapore, where they believe in paying elected officials at a level that demand performance. I'm inclined in that direction. Now, in the case of Jamaica, the dollar amount itself, and I'm at risk of sounding out of touch, the dollar amount itself does not alarm me. We need to recall that there are persons leading government agencies now who make more than that we see the Prime Minister making, and some make significantly more that are on the government payroll now. That is it. That is the first thing. Now, is it 19 million? Is it 20? Is it 25? I don't know. But I do believe that they should be remunerated at such a level that they can bring their entire selves to the job. And by the way, in 2019, the Gleaner had an editorial in which it argued for increase in pay for elected officials as an opportunity to reduce corruption. I'm not sure if that works, frankly. But that is part of the mix. But the idea of paying or political leadership well for what is, for those who take it seriously, a very tough job is something that I accept. No.
Dr. Stokes.
100% should have been 300. We can debate that.
Dr. Stokes, and in preparing for this, I probably should have known what I'm going to ask you. So forgive my ignorance, but I can't remember when last a politician or the Prime Minister was given a pay increase. I say that to ask the question, how do you come up with a 230% and a 214%?
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Yeah, so if you look at, okay, so it comes out of a 1989 report that Michael Manley had commissioned. By the way, we have, if you look in Jamaica's archives, we have excellent reports. If you look at what Carl Stone did in 1990, 1991 in terms of how we treat with MPs, if we had done that, then we wouldn't be having this conversation now. I'm concerned that maybe the Patterson report is going to go the way of all reports in Jamaica. Put that aside for a second. The 1989 report recommended a salary for the Prime Minister or for cabinet ministers at some percentage above what permanent secretaries make. So having increased the permanent secretary's salary, it therefore follows that there is an implied increase for the political directorate or for the cabinet ministers. That is the formula behind it. No, it was ignored before because this has been out since 1989. Did we have to accept that? And let's be frank, we don't accept all recommendations of all commissions. Did we have to accept that at this time? I'm not worried about the dollar value because having not had an increase for some time and coming from what, frankly, is a low base, the percentage increase is going to look large.
Yeah. But the baseline is so, yes, correct.
Yes, the base is so small and you're skipping years. So it is going to look large. The question is, not for me, frankly, not so much what I am paying you, but what is the country getting in return for this payment to you?
Should I then ask if you're on this wavelength of job descriptions and KPIs and measurements and accountability?
Yes, because look, Bertha Sansipo, it cannot be that the price for being elected on day one is $11 million each year for the next 5 years, right? That's not what we're talking about. It's not the reward for being elected. It is compensation for doing a job, is how I think about it. And therefore, what is that job? How well is it being effected? Whether I apply myself or not, do I get the same as the next guy? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, what are your deliverables? Right? How do you measure
success? What are my deliverables? I'm going to Parliament.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to Parliament 35-40% of the time. Right? And I get the same as the guy who's going all the time and involving himself.
But how do you rate success, Dr. Chris? Because, all right, you are in my constituency, but then my neighbor don't like you. You know, I like you, and I say, boy, I like what you're doing, and this man. And then my neighbor said, no, sir, that man, you're foolishness because of the political divide. Right. So how do you rate and say, well, I mean, some people might say some of the ministers. I think everyone would say some of the ministers are doing a good job. We had Damian, Senator Crawford here, who big up Minister Bartlett and said he was doing a good job. So some people across the board will say that. But how you end up saying, yeah, man, Dr. Stokes doing a really good job, and then my neighbor said, I'm mad this year, top, man. I'm mad enough, you know?
And that's a fair question. Now, the first point in my response to that, Bertus, is that whether I voted for you or not, or even if I did not vote, if I pay taxes, I am paying you.
Right. Right.
Let's start with that.
Right.
That's the first thing. The second thing is, for these targets to work, I'd say two things. They have to be things that improve my life or moves the country in the direction of an agreed objective. Increasing GDP per capita, being able to pay teachers more, reducing debt, economic growth rate, keeping inflation down.
By X
we can
percent.
come up with measures.
Drill it right
What's
now.
that?
No, I'm saying by X percent.
Measures.
Yes.
X percent. So, and then the political directorate, you know, and you could have smaller goals in the constituency. How many meetings are you having? Are you going to Parliament? How are you spending the few dollars that you get in the community? What else are you? What are the other what makes a good MP, and how are you measuring up against that?
Yes, correct.
All the way
I agree
up to
with
the
that.
larger group, right? So my not liking you becomes irrelevant if you are doing such things that you can pay teachers properly.
Right. Right.
So Dr. Stokes, let me ask you out of this, right? What do you see as the eventual next steps? Do you see fallout? Because groups are already coming out to say Police Federation has come out, the teachers have come out. Has the police spoken? Have the police spoken?
No, I haven't heard.
But I don't think the police have spoken, but I know the teachers have come out. I think it's only inevitable until other folks start to say, hello, what is happening here? Do you see any fallout or blowback from this?
You know, and let me just use a sports analogy. It's like, let's say that the whole salary classification and negotiations is like an injury. You pull your hamstring, right? And before it heals, man, the coach says, boy, go out and run again. And that's what we're doing. We're not ready to run again because the wounds of the recent process are fresh.
Yeah.
People are in pain. There are teachers who still say they haven't been paid. There are persons who say that the reclassification makes them worse off. No. And here is an important point in politics. It may be true or it may not be true, and there may be anecdotal cases. This person is worse off, but everybody else is better off. It doesn't matter to that person. That person is in pain, right? So and far be it from me to lecture anybody on politics, but in politics, it is not enough to say this is what the numbers are in general. There has to be a heavy dose of empathy.
Yeah.
I hear you, I feel for you. I am working towards resolving your issue, and I am not doing such things on my side that would rub salt into your wound. And I think that empathy part is what is listen, nobody's bad-minding anybody's salary, you know. Nobody in Jamaica is bad-minding the politician's salary, you know. What they're saying is how, in relation to me, it's a problem. That is the issue. Yeah. All right, and that is what we need to address.
Thanks, Doc. Appreciate your insight this morning.
This is exactly what we were saying. I said if this is what they deserve, I can live with it. But then the teachers must get what they deserve. The police must get what they deserve. So you're right. Some people might be bad-minding them, but I don't have an issue with that if everything else falls into place. Great to see you. God bless you and the family.
Good to see you. Take care.
Development economist, Dr. Chris Stokes, with us this morning. Coming up next, Capri breaking down the budget. We're back with that after this.